Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Baseball Buds podcast. It is May 5th, coming off May the 4th, and it is Cinco de Mayo. I don't really like this, Richie, going from a Star Wars themed holiday to a taco themed holiday. Just not really my thing, but it is May. So we're through April, through an entire month of baseball. And it's time to take a look around the minor leagues, see what is going on, see what we like, what we don't like. And we have a very, very big burning question today of do you think Anthony Pages is in line for a modeling gig? On that note, Richie,
Is his name
hello.
Anthony? I thought it was Andy.
Let's say Anthony
You said
Pages.
Anthony.
It's his twin brother. They
Okay,
are identical twins.
got it. He hangs out with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. Must be
Yes. He's actually going to be in what it would be Ocean's 14.
something like that. No, it feels good to
Yes.
be back. It's been a couple weeks. You went to Yosemite. I got a broken nose from a softball to the face. So both different ends of the spectrum here, but I am excited to get back in it, checking on the guys that we love, whether they're hot or not, and just go around the horn talking about some news and notes here.
Yep. And starting us off, we have a trade. And I was interested really in this trade, especially after the first game where Luis Arraez ends up getting traded to the San Diego Padres, going back to the Marlins, Dylan Head, which was a player we really liked the last draft season. Jacob Marcy, Nathan Mortarella, and Woosuck Go. God, that name still sounds like a sounds like it shouldn't be allowed on a non-explicit
Right.
podcast. Woosuck Go. But I thought it was a lot to give up for Arraez. What was your initial thought of this trade?
My initial thought was good for the Padres for grabbing Arraez this early. The one thing I didn't check before the pod, which I should have, is how many years of control does Luis Arraez have left before arbitration or arb years, regardless, one way or the other. How many years of control does he have left? Because that was a big package of prospects for that caliber of a player in my mind. And good for the Marlins for getting that package. But instantly, all of those hitters Martello, Dylan Head, Jacob Marcy, who Marcy is my favorite of the list just because of proximity, and I thought he would crack the outfield rotation with the Padres before Jackson Merrill played there. So I thought he was the most big league ready. But we've talked about this in the past. The Miami Marlins don't do good things with their hitters. And so now all of these prospect hitters are going down in the ranks for me. I'm curious to see if Jacob Marcy does come up and play a little bit for the Marlins this year. It's a little bit of a head scratcher. What are the Miami Marlins doing? They already sent Max Meyer down to the minors for workload concerns, and now they're getting rid of Luis Arraez. This is just after they made a push for the playoffs when they acquired Josh Bell and Jake Berger, who are both still on the team. So you have a slow start in the month of April, and now you're just ready to throw all the chips in. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way a little bit, but I guess the package, the trade itself, is okay in my mind.
Yeah, and they've run into injuries, right? You're talking about Yuri Perez going down with Tommy John, Sandy Alcantara also having had Tommy John gone for the 2024 season, and things just not really working out the way that they thought they would. Cabrera kind of being inconsistent. Rogers just at this point looking like a guy that's probably going to bounce around the league for a number of years as a lefty specialist. I just don't think he has the ability to stick in rotation. AJ Puck not being able to
Yeah,
stick in the rotation.
right.
Like there is just a number of things that really didn't go well for them with starting pitching, and that was supposed to be their strength. Having Berger, having Bell come in to help them score runs, and then you look at the addition of Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson's still playing like 2023 Tim Anderson. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong in Miami. And I think when you talk about getting ahead and trading Arraez for the Padres, I think it's the same thing for Miami. This is a decent package. And to answer your question, he becomes a free agent in the season of 2026, ARB
Okay.
eligible 2025. So a couple of years left. I also don't think this is a player that's going to command a massive extension. I could see in the next coming days coming out the 5-year, $80 million, 6-year,
Something along
$85
those,
million
yeah.
deal, where he locks himself into the Padres organization. But, going over the names, Marcy and Mortarella are closer than I think a lot of prospectors would like to think. I think they could probably come up now, honestly,
Yeah.
um, and contribute. And I think that's a really big piece because this doesn't require the Marlins to develop, right? This is like, just don't mess these guys up. They are very close and ready. Dylan Head, I think, is going to be the interesting case study. He has a lot of potential. It needs a lot of training. And I'm going to be very curious to monitor him throughout the next couple of years to see like what he looks like in the Marlins system. But I think just the acquisition of Dylan Head was a win for the Marlins, and I think the acquisition for Arraez in that lineup after having 4 hits in his first game was a win. This is a win-win for me. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. For those unfamiliar, Dylan Head was the 25th overall draft pick in last year, 2023 draft. Only 19, comes out of Illinois high school, Homewood Flossmoor. He had a pretty decent start in his pro debut last year. Batted 294 in A ball, or rookie ball, I should say, and then 241 in the low A. But that was only over 13 games, so very small sample size. But showed some promise. And I think in one of your dynasty startup leagues, I think I told you to snag him in the second or third round of a 30 team, I want to say. So he has some pedigree in the deeper circles, and he had some promise to maybe have some potential as a fourth or fifth outfielder. But from a overall baseball standpoint, yes, I agree. Win-win for both sides, given where they
Yeah,
are for this year.
yeah, absolutely. Given where they are, and I think at this point, yeah, now the Marlins are, like maybe we could see a pitcher moved, maybe Berger and Bell go. Um,
Luzardo was mentioned of being on the trade block prior to the season. Now he's dealing with, I think it's an elbow injury, but he looked good
yeah,
in
flexor
his
tendon.
first rehab start. I don't remember, but what the official stat line was, but it was something along the lines like 5, 6 innings, 0 or 1 earned runs with like 5 or 6 K, something along those lines. So it was pretty nice to see him come back and do okay in his rehab start. So he should be on the mend soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has 2, 3, maybe 4 good starts and shows he's back to being healthy. I wouldn't be shocked if he's traded way before the deadline, maybe end of May, beginning of June, and he's the next person to go.
Yeah, I think at this point we can just assume the Marlins are rebuilding, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's safe to say.
yeah. Next on the list, Arizona Fall, Florida Complex, Arizona, Florida Complex start this week. Is DSL starting this week too or
I
no?
don't know, but I do know the ACL and FCL have started
Have kicked off.
yesterday.
Okay.
There's no point in even bringing up stats because it's
No,
literally
it's not.
one game.
It's one game. Yeah.
So there's not
But it's
much to
fun. We'll
take
have
up.
hopefully
Yeah.
next week we can start to be like, hey, this guy has 4 home runs. He also has 37 strikeouts.
Hmm.
But yeah, that is good. It's kicking off a little bit earlier this year, about a month earlier
Oh yeah.
than expected. But next on the list, Wyatt Langford
Hmm.
injury, grade 1 hamstring, 3 to 4 weeks. Curious timing. Not the start we expected for Wyatt Langford's career. I think at this point, if you listen to the podcast, you probably know how I feel about Mr. Wyatt Langford. But Richie, more importantly, what are you doing in leagues if you're losing Langford? Are you cutting bait in redraft?
No, because well, one, you should be able to stash them on your IL. So I would not be cutting bait. Um, Two, I haven't looked at if it was a specific play. Like, did he pull up, like running to first, or is this something like that's been nagging him and it just like now coming up on him? I'll have to do some more digging, but I would not cut him in redraft. It's interesting that you mentioned cutting him because Jackson Holiday literally just got dropped in my redraft categories leagues, and I haven't had a chance to ask you, but is he worth picking up? Jackson Holiday. I know I'm deflecting your original Wyatt Langford question, but
No, no, I'm dropping both of them in redraft, and
oh, you are
it's
dropping Langford as well.
yeah. I'm
I
out on
guess it
Langford.
depends on the size of your league. If you're,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm comfortable dropping Langford anywhere up to a 15. Holiday as well. Um, we're gonna talk about a name here in a minute that I don't think would have been rostered that I would rather have. All right.
I see, I'm contemplating picking up Holiday, and I'm not ready to drop Langford yet. There's just so many case studies of these high end prospects where they start the first month or first 2 months slow or cold, and then they turn it around. The Gunnar Henderson just last year did it. He was batting under 200 going into June, and then just turned it on. And just that, I guess, FOMO or fear of missing out on that potential resurgence going into the next year. Even Ellie De La Cruz last year. How many times did I talk about picking him up and dropping him last year? And ultimately, I got away with it in the redraft league, and I got Ellie for his final hot stretch that helped
Yeah,
me
but
go to.
Ellie's not a fair comparison.
I'm
I
just
would use
saying,
Volpe and Walker, and that's why I like
but it's different with
Gunners.
Volpe and Walker in my minds because they were top 10 to top 30 prospects, whereas Ellie was like top five. Langford's top five. Holiday top five. Julio Rodriguez top five. Maybe it's just because this class isn't as doesn't have the pedigree, but I think you and I both disagree about the pedigree. And it's just I think we have this unrealistic expectation or standard that if you don't come out and you don't play like Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna in your rookie year, or even Corbin Carroll last year, that you're a bust and we should move on. And
Well, but this is the thing. Like Wyatt Langford isn't only not playing like those guys. Like Wyatt Langford's not a top 50 outfielder,
no, I would agree with that statement right
and
now.
hasn't shown anything to suggest he ever will be.
It's
Like
too
it would be
early for me
different.
to cast
I mean,
ever will be.
it's more than 30 games. Like that's a lot of playing. This
30
isn't like Jordan
games.
Walker putting up really nice exit velos and like just pounding the ball into the ground. This is a player that is showing signs of a lot of overhype.
Oh, for
And
sure he's overhyped for going as a top 100 draft pick, but I'm not ready to write him off and say he's never going to be in the top 300 or 400 and
well,
ever
that's not
be
the question though,
rostable.
but we're not talking about ever. We're talking about this season. Like this is a really big question because like we're talking about a year, we're talking about a month in, and you've said like you should presumably be able to IL him. I don't think that's the case. Like ILs are full right now. And they're like this is a huge decision. 3 to 4 weeks gets June,
Yeah,
right? And now we're
a
talking
rehab
about
assignment and coming
second
back.
week of June, he comes back. And now listen, like the flip side to that is that it is hot. Like I think that's a really big piece we haven't been talking about. Like look at all the struggling major leaguers. It's still working our way into summer. Like I think the reality is a lot of these pitchers that have come out and pitched really well, a lot of the hitters that are cold, things are going to flip. Like once it gets hot, these hitters are going to start hitting. I do believe Wyatt Langford's power will return once it gets hot. Now it's hard to say that because by the time he comes back, it will be hot. So we're not going to see this progression. But my question is, how important is he for you? Knowing ILs are full, knowing we're talking about a June return, it sounds like he's important, which is okay. I just want to make sure that we're both on the same page.
I don't think we are on the same page. I mean, yeah, his average exit velocities aren't where we want them to be, 87.8. We'd ideally like them in the 90 to 93 range. His max exit velocity, 111.4.
That's good.
That's not terrible, but it's
Yeah,
not what
that's
we'd
not. Yeah.
expect. I think we were all expecting 115 to 120 based on his height, but like, I mean, granted they were all lower level spring training, what he did in the minor leagues last year, what he did in college, like it's just so hard to he's shown us that potential. Granted, it was the lower levels and against lesser competition, but like I don't know. I just the the ceiling is too much for me to give up on. And I know he's burned you because you have him in a lot of spots and you reached for him higher than you should have.
Mhm.
And I feel that's getting in the way and clouding your judgment of your hatred towards him for not panning out so far.
No, 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 no. My hatred towards him is what I said to you. He doesn't rotate with velocity. Like I don't like his swing. It is that simple.
And
And
that's
as soon
fair.
as I identified that, I was like, as soon as I identified that, yes, I felt stupid for like not actually breaking down his film and looking at him and being like, oh my god, I really don't like this player. To like, what the fuck did everybody else see? Like, what was everybody else watching? Because I wasn't a good baseball player, but I know how to do things, even though I can't do them because I
Right.
can't physically do them. And when I watch his swing, I'm like, no, 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 like you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like I know how to get out more velocity from my hips. I know how to separate my shoulders. I can't do it. He doesn't do a good job of either of those things either. And that's where the 87.8 comes in. Like I fucking saw that. And I was like, okay, so where are all these other podcasters coming from? Where are all these other analysts coming from? Like they're on crack.
I love this.
And the frustration now is for me, we're coming into another FYPD this year with like 7 players I would rather have over Wyatt Langford. Like I'm taking Jack Caglione without even a fucking doubt. I'm taking I'm taking, the kid from Georgia without a
Charlie,
question.
he's up
Condone.
to 33 homers or maybe
No,
34.
and this is why I wanted to bring up some of these names. So Bazana's up to 24. I think there's a really, really good chance the narrative that's spinning around college baseball, and we are completely off on a different train
Hey,
than our outline.
let's do
We
it.
will get back there. I think the ball is absolutely fucking juiced.
Hey, for
Like Travis
college,
Bazana did not come into the season with 24 home run upside, right?
no, we were all thinking like 10 to 15,
16.
10 to
Like, yeah,
15,
like
but
16
we thought
max.
he'd
Like,
be hitting 400 to 500 batting average for
um, who's the other kid for Wake that we liked a lot? Infielder.
Nick Kurtz,
No, 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 no.
Seaver
The
King.
infielder. Yeah, 14 home runs. Like we were talking about Seaver King as like what 8 to 10 if we were
I was
lucky.
thinking 5 to 10 for Seaver
Yeah,
King.
yeah, yeah. And in Condone's home runs, like when he hits it, it's just like, oh, that one 460, huh? Like I thought
I
that
watched his
could
most
have been
recent one. It
pop
was
up.
a hanging curveball down middle, and it looked like he barely even swung the bat. And he's just like, "Yep, this
Hmm.
is gone. I don't even need to try." And I'm like, Jesus! And just the sound off the bat with those metal bats is just, I don't know. It's a thing of
So
beauty.
I bring this up because there have been some rumblings within those that follow college baseball religiously saying that the ball has been juiced for a couple of years now. And I have a concern that we got very, very, very excited for Wyatt Langford and for Dylan Cruz, who, by the way, when you put them in comparison to Caglione and Condone, it's not even really that close. Like this is a way better class coming up if you just look at it like that.
I will say
But
Jack Caglione has some swing and miss and holes in his swing. And the strikeout numbers, I know he's done a little better this year, but that still concerns me. So I would still take Cruz and Langford over Caglione. Condone
in
is
fantasy or in real life, it's
um
an important question because in real life I can understand the Dylan Cruz
yeah. Langford's
Langford.
defense,
Where
yeah.
I'm out on Langford, but I
Well,
can understand
I'm
why you're
coming
taking
from a
him.
fantasy perspective. But yeah, I mean, because where does Jack play defensively? Because I know he's two way, so he's a pitcher. But like, they have him
He's
DH or
slotted at
DH
first
or
in
first or
DH.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
it's hard. So like, okay, let's cancel out Jack and Langford's defense because they both suck, right? Dylan Cruz, obviously, you're gonna take him over that. Charlie Condone, like, regardless if the ball's juiced or not, take away half of them, he's still around 20 homers. Like, that's just nuts. You can't just deny that. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, they're in that range, and the funny thing is these are all top 5 going in the draft, and we're talking about Condone, and we haven't even talked about Nick Kurtz yet. So like, this next year's FYPD is going to be nuts.
yeah, and
I don't think I answered your fully question, but like, it is what it
uh,
is. I don't think you can
it
answer it in a vacuum.
it's very hard, and I guess my point is in redraft. I really think the evaluation that I have been doing of like what to expect from prospects upon entry into the league has been like marred with the production that they've been giving at the lower levels, and I think Langford's the perfect example. Like he crushed everywhere he went, and he gets to the major leagues, and we start to see like a shell of the player we thought we had, and then that's
I'm one.
because of the exit velocity. 87 is not acceptable for his pedigree. It
No,
is unacceptable. Like there is no excuse that
I'm
can be made.
I'm I mean, you can never tell from a player's psyche, and they're never going to admit it, but like, how much are these guys feeling the pressure to perform? Wyatt Langford's playing for the world champion Rangers who have aspirations of going back to back. Jackson Holiday, probably the most notorious, like, comes from the lineage of Matt Holiday. All eyes are on him. When he gets called, everybody's watching, everybody's talking. It's on national television. Now he feels the pressure to perform. I'm wondering how much of this is getting into their head and they can't just go out and play and they're just thinking about all of the other things. And we'll never know that. But maybe like an IL trip for the Wyatt Langford is a good thing to reset his psyche. Same thing for Jackson Holiday, because once he got demoted, he's been struggling a little bit. He's not hitting 300 and tearing the cover off the ball. So I wonder if it is a psychological thing. So I'm just
I mean,
speculating at this point.
I don't doubt it's holidays, especially because
Oh, 100%. It's
there's all this
psychological
attention.
for
He's
Holiday.
20 years old. But you look at Langford and you look at Churio, like I look at those situations very similarly. Like both of them are on teams that aren't really asking a lot from them, right? They're saying, "Hey, you have the pedigree, you have the talent. We're going
Well,
to throw you out there." Like
yeah,
it's
but
Texas's fault and it's Bruce Bochy's
they're
fault for putting
batting Lang.
Langford in the lineup
They're
where they
putting
did.
Langford like in the 3 or 4 hole.
That's
Like,
Bochy's fault. That is not
how
Langford's
are you
fault.
going to tell a rookie, a kid who's what, 23, 24, hey, just be yourself, but also you're going to bat 3 or 4 and we want you to drive in these runs for us. So like versus Jackson Churio, who you're batting 7, 8, 9 most of
Yeah,
the time.
79.
So like it's the Brewers, man. We're a small market, and also we're kind of in a rebuild slash retool. So like we're not really expecting much. Christian Yelich is hurt, so like we have no pitching anymore. Freddie Peralta, who just got shelled today, isn't doing much. So like the realistic chance of the Brewers having any playoff aspirations are slim to none. So it's like just go out there, be yourself, have some fun, kid. So like Churio, in my mind, doesn't have that pressure that Langford and Holiday have.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think that also comes with the announcement of or the anointment of like number one prospect. Like look at most lists. It had Wyatt Langford and Jackson Holiday,
Yeah, it
right?
was
Like
either
those were
one
the
of
two
the two. Yeah.
consensus. And I think interesting reality is you look at Churio, who came in probably 3-4 mixed with Junior Caminero, where like I think Caminero is going to come up and even have less pressure on him than he had last year when he came up because A, we've already seen him, and B, we've already now seen Langford and Holiday fail. So there isn't this immense like expectation that Caminero comes up and hits 300 and averages 30 home runs, a
No, but
pace
I
in a
think he's
season.
going to do it because he's going to come out angry that he hasn't been at the majors. I mean, he's been on
Hmm.
fire and he's not
Yeah,
even on our rundown. But I think it's because
I would agree with that.
everybody's talking about Caminero. I think he's got like 4 or 5 homers in the last 2, 3 days. Like, it's nuts what he's doing. Like, the fact that he's not
Well,
called up is absurd to
I
me.
think it's more frustrating when you look at the Rays coming out of Milwaukee and losing 2 out of 3 and not putting up like any offense. And I've said this in the last couple of weeks, like, one of the really big things we need to start paying attention to is what's the exit velo at AAA, like on a consistent basis because we know what juniors is. That's his skill, right? He is a elite major league hitter when it comes to exit velocities, and I still think he can struggle. I mean, I brought up Jordan Walker's name. Jordan Walker, 91.4, I want to say, exit velo on average. It's very, very good. He's in AAA. So, these young kids, they do need to be given time, but to finish this,
So,
I'm dropping Langford. You're keeping him. Yes.
yes, but I will say in this scenario, if I had the ultimate stack team, like my worst player is like a top 120 player, like your worst, trying to think of a worst player that's like in the
Well,
100
okay.
range.
Let's use my Yahoo team as an
Okay.
example here because I don't think
But
I've even checked it
where
for
I'm
two
going with
days.
this example while you're pulling that up is if my team's stacked and Wyatt Langford is the worst player on my team and I have no IL spots and I'm stashing guys like a Max Scherzer or a Garrett Cole, like the high end IL guys, right? And Junior Caminero is sitting on the waiver wire, I would drop Wyatt Langford for Junior Caminero.
Okay, well that makes sense.
So, but if I could, I would be holding on to Langford. But I would like to have Langford and Caminero. But if push came to shove, I would be taking Caminero over Wyatt Langford, regardless of its categories, roto points. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
You got your
all
Yahoo
right.
team up.
Yeah, it's an absolute mess. I would have to essentially drop him. Outfield is Corbin Carroll, Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez,
I'm taking all those
Tyler,
over Langford.
obviously. Tyler Black's my utility. I could drop him, right?
For who? Just anybody? You're
Uh,
just saying?
well, my point would be like I would be moving Langford from utility to bench, Black from bench to utility. So like instead of having to drop Langford, I could drop Black as
And
as my
that's the
like.
point. Is
Yeah.
there's probably somebody worse on your team that you could drop, and given how much you
Yep.
or somebody, whoever's listening to this, you probably at least had to pay at a minimum a top 150 draft price for Wyatt Langford. And just given how much you've invested, you just kind of have to set it out and wait at this point.
Yeah, and hope for that return in June, which again,
And maybe
I
that resets his psyche and he can figure it out. I don't know.
well, an 87 isn't
It's not
it's
terrible,
not
but like it's not
that
what we
far
yeah, it's
off.
not what we expected from him.
No, it's not that far off from I think a summer jump. And I am really interested to see where those numbers come because again, at 87, if we have him finish the year at 89, we can be projecting him forward as more of an elite power hitter. The problem is, you know, I talked about this with Evan Carter. Like Wyatt Langford should have more home runs. They just all happen to hit the right field gap wall. Like if you put up his spray chart,
For
it's kind of
Langford?
ridiculous. Yeah, he's got 3 balls at the 374 marker.
Oh, I'm
In
seeing
it
that.
in Texas, it's like that's he should have about 4 home runs this year. 1 4 10. I don't know what happened to that one. That must have been interesting. So he should have about 4 home runs. That's not terrible. 129
And
plate
if
appearances.
he has those home runs, and then there'd be five technically with his inside the park, I don't think we're even having this conversation.
No, no,
Which is
definitely not.
where's the thing on Baseball Savant where it tells you how many homers he'd have in each different ballpark? Okay.
Got to go down a little bit.
Yeah,
He'd have
so
1 home run in every park. Actually,
roughly,
no.
not even.
Oh my god, that's even more concerning.
This tells me.
So he'd have 1 home run in New
I
York,
wonder if they're
Boston,
just
Toronto.
lower launch angles for those that went that far. That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Hey,
with it's
it is
something to
what it is.
monitor. Like I think at this point, the only concern I have about Langford's profile is that power, and that's why I brought up college. Right, we really need to monitor this. Condon has good power. I'm not saying a juice ball is going to make or break Condon. The thing is, like Bazana is the profile where it's like, like did Dylan Cruz's power numbers get amplified in college because of potentially a ball that may be a little more inclined to fly? Like if that's the case, Wyatt Langford's or Dylan Cruz is not necessarily as exciting as I thought he was, and I would still rather have Langford. But these are all questions we're going to have answered in a few years when we have more data. Langford has a full month now and is now on the injured list, so we're going to have to wait for June. But let's move along. We have spent more
Yeah,
than enough
wait.
time on Wyatt Langford.
Yes.
Next on the list is a player we were very excited to see debut.
My boy.
Christian Scott making a very nice debut this past week for the New York Mets, going 6 2/3, 6 strikeouts. Did not get the win, did not get the loss. Held his own with a .90 whip. I'm guessing you got to at least watch a little of this game, or you saw the highlights.
I watched most of it. It kind of tailed off near the end due to father duties, but I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous at the beginning. He gave up 3 hits to start the game, and I was like, "Oh great, here goes his psyche. He's gonna get shelled." But like the first hit was to Yandy Diaz. It was literally a blooper right over the second baseman's head, and he like could have gotten it if he was a little bit taller, but he missed it. Then the second hitter was Richie Palacios, and he like just reached out trying to hit I think it was a changeup by Christian Scott, and it was like a complete defensive swing, and it was like a little blooper. And then he gave up a legit hit to Isaac Paredes, which drove in Yandy Diaz. But after that, man, he settled down and he was pinpoint control, like hitting the corners, using the sweeper to get out of the zone, get people to swing and miss. Um, there was a few things that I noticed about it. He's very calm and like keeps his composure on the mound. But I also saw like he's got good stuff, but like it's not great overpowering stuff. Fastball sits 95, gets great extension, great spin rates on it, but it's not to the point where like you're going to see this guy go and strike out 10, 12, 14 guys. At least that wasn't my initial impression from him. I think this is going to be a pitcher who's going to give you about a strikeout per inning or less. And I think he can work his way 6, 7, 8 innings if he can keep his control. The one walk he had, it was intentional and it was just a barely miss. It was a 3-2 count. He used a sweeper out of the zone and he knew what he was doing. So it's not like he was erratic with it, but I think he's got the ceiling of a 2-3 and the floor of a 4-5 moving forward from this point on.
Yeah, I think Christian Scott, you said it perfectly. This is a kid that's locked into a rotation. And I think this is a very, 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 very safe 3 to 4 year dynasty window where you're talking about, who do you want? Who are the guys that you want to bank on are going to give you ratios and innings? Would you agree with that? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is the perfect, like,
He's the
we've
perfect
talked about him as
categories roto
George
guy.
Kirby,
Yeah, George
but
Kirby
like,
light is what we've been calling.
yeah, like that's what you want. Like, if you can get 7, 8 innings, a week out of him, and I mean, this
I,
is this is a player we were very excited about and a great performance.
yeah.
I mean, this was better than I expected, especially when I turned him on in the first inning. I was like, oh, okay, I can turn this off.
Oh, so you watched the first inning? Did you watch any of
I probably watched 30 seconds of it just to like pop it on and see what was
it?
going
So
on. And
you
there was
saw
a guy
those
on first
exact
and
hits?
third. And I was just like, oh, I was like, oh, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Glad some of my trades this year in other leagues didn't work out. But no, it ended up having a fantastic line. I was shocked to see at the end of the night what he did. I'm going to skip over here and we're going to go back to Trey Turner. Well, I guess Trey Turner out 6 weeks with a hamstring. Any news of note there, Richie?
No, it was just a bummer. It was just one of our news and notes that I had on the rundown. But given how much time we've spent, we should move on to the next guy.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the game today, but I did watch his strikeouts. And we're talking about Piggy here. That's Alek Manoah. Sorry, Alec. You've lost some weight. You look really good, by the way. So kudos to you for putting in the hard work and coming off 12K performance, 6 innings pitched in his last AAA appearance, which was against Paul Skeens. Very nice note there, Richard. Today, not the best game. 4 innings, 6 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks. Velo was up about a mile per hour. You have on here. And we talked a little bit, you and I, this week about him being a 2 pitch pitcher. You have 3 pitches listed here. Sinker usage was at 38%. Slider usage was at 37%. Fastball usage was at 24%. Changeup 1%. That's whatever. I watched the strikeouts. He looks nasty. Now, I don't know if he's going to be consistent, and I don't know that they're going to be able to rein him back in to make him even useful as a starter. But whatever he changed, there's a lot of movement, and I like what I saw, at least from the strikeouts.
Yeah, I wish I could have saw it. I've been busy today, so I apologize. There's no excuses when it comes to fantasy baseball. But I did put those notes in there thinking it was interesting because you were telling me about how he was using 2 pitches to gain his control and his confidence back. And to see him use 3 pitches today, I wonder if he knew he needed to use three to get MLB hitters off of their stride or waiting on his fastball or slider. He used that sinker to mix and match, and maybe that's where the pinpoint control wasn't there for him, which led to those walks. I'd have to go and watch the game in order to see that, but I did think that was interesting. It was encouraging to see that his fastball or all of his pitches were up over a mile per hour. I wanted to see what his spin rates were compared to last year, and I don't have it because I have to go to the box score of the actual game, and I'm completely stalling while I pull that up. So I'm going to pass it to you to keep
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, he looked good. He looked thinner today. I mean, I would have to imagine the sinker and the slider. Those are the 2 pitches that he was using in that AAA start against Skeens. Those I feel like are going to be his dominant pitches. I almost want to say the 24% fastball usage would have been that pitch that he used to essentially mix things up, add into his pitch mix, and just change the eye level for the hitter. I am going to go back tonight and watch this start because there were moments, in the little bit that I saw where he looked dominant. He looked even better than the former version of Alek Manoah. The thing is, it's just like he's a different pitcher now. He's not who I saw constantly dominate the Yankees. So, and I think it was necessary because from the profile that we saw from Alek Manoah before things got really rocky, it was kind of like, well, how is this guy necessarily doing this? It's nothing special. But do you have those numbers for us, Richard?
Yeah, his spin rates actually were down compared to last year. They weren't terrible though, like just 56 to 80 RPMs. When we're talking about 2300 versus, or I should say 2100 versus 2200, like on a sinker, like I mean, 2150 versus whatever. It's not that big of a deal. So it's pretty much just the increase in velo is probably what you're referencing rather than the spin rates. But
Yeah,
either way,
yeah, yeah. And his sinker was nice. So we'll keep you monitored. I think at this point, if you picked him up, hold.
I mean,
You
you
got to.
have to. Given that
Yeah,
that AAA start against Paul Skeens, that shows you enough promise to at least hold it out for a couple more starts. Given who his competition, if he goes up against the Braves or Dodgers and his next outing gets shelled, like those are automatically passes in my mind for any pitcher, regardless of who you are. So, I mean, if it's a middle of the pack competition, like against the Rays or the Mets or something along those lines, then yeah, I give him about two
yeah,
or three more starts.
yeah. I mean, he had a couple. He had a couple today that he dotted that I thought were two seamers, but it was clearly the sinker at 96 outside corner, and it was just like, oh, like Um, okay. I mean, this was an elite strikeout performance just in the six that he showed, and I do think there's elite in him. It's just again, can we see it consistently? Can we see him become a starting pitcher that sticks in the rotation?
Yeah.
So next up, Brian Ramos called up. Also, Kyle Manzardo promoted. Um, I am very excited about Manzardo, not so much about Ramos. What about you?
I thought it was interesting with Brian Ramos because he went from straight from Double A to the big leagues, and he was struggling for the most part. And then he just turned it on most recently. Batted 279 in his last 10 games, including the two from MLB. But like overall, he's only batting 182 on the year. I don't know what the demand was for Brian Ramos, but it is what it is. I mean, Kyle Manzardo deserves this promotion. He's been on fire. I'm just worried or curious how long it's going to stay because the only reason why he did get called up is because Stephen Kwan got placed on the IL. And anytime a player gets promoted due to an injury, I always wonder or worry, I should say, how long are they truly going to stay and are they only a substitution? Same thing happened with, I think it was Jonathan Clase of the Mariners, and he got sent back down. Same thing with Jordan Beck. He got called up because of an injury. I can't remember who got injured for the Rockies, but they're still injured, and Beck is still up, I believe. So um, I'm just worried if Manzardo is going to truly stay. If he keeps raking, he's going to force their hand, but it's just a matter of can he and will he stay?
Yeah, and that brings us to our next player who has continued to rake and is continuing to see playing time. And that's Andy Pages for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Pages last year it was a name and a player that we had talked about and monitored until he tore his right labrum, ending his 2023. A lot of power was coming out of the profile with good contact skills for a player that showed so much power. Dodgers promoted Andy about 3 weeks ago. Is that fair, Richie?
Yeah, he's got 17 games under his belt now.
Yep, 69 plate appearances. This is a player that you actively added in one of our leagues. Currently 4 home runs, batting 319. His on base percentage isn't crazy at 338, but his 903 OPS is definitely exciting. You have the question in the notes of do I believe in Andy Pages? Now, the question should really be do I believe in his modeling career or his baseball career? Definitely believe in his baseball career. Modeling, nope. But yeah, a very nice start for Pages. I really liked the profile in the minor leagues. He's very Dodger-esque, right?
Hmm.
You've been comping him to Yasiel Puig in regards to his fast start and his power. Um, I think this is the perfect player for the Dodgers, and I think in regards to what we can expect moving forward, I would rather have Pages than Langford. That was kind of the player I was forecasting earlier. But again, Pages is putting up the numbers. He has showcased the power, and this is a player that we have been monitoring for a number of years. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I actually want to get into this a little bit because I am the owner of Andy Pajes in one league. It will probably the most important league, which is our outstanding home league. But I never liked Andy Pajes. If I'm going to be honest with
Hmm.
you, last year he was a little overweight and he struck out way too much. He slimmed down a little bit, showed some promise, and that's why I went and picked him up. But if you don't have the numbers, can you guess how many walks to strikeouts he has at the major league level without looking it up
How many walks to strikeouts he has at the major league level?
in the 69 plate appearances?
17 strikeouts to one walk.
You're pretty close. 18 strikeouts, no walks.
Hey, I was like, that's like an A minus. I'll
I
give
feel
myself
like
an
you
A minus on
cheated.
that.
I feel like you
I
cheated.
didn't cheat, but that is the perfect expectation that I would have had for
So,
Pages.
having said that, yes, he is off to a great start. 4 homers, 12 RBIs, batting 319. I just worry. Like I always have this feeling with new rookies, they come out hot. Pitchers are trying to say, "Hey, kid, come hit this," and then they adjust. They find out his weaknesses. They find out the holes in his swing, and I could very well see a cold stretch for Andy Pages. Maybe not this week, next week, but in a couple weeks here, probably near the middle, end of May, June. I could see him slowing down a little bit, and can he adjust after the All Star break? Is something what I'm forecasting for Andy Pages. So, having said that, long term, I'd prefer Langford over Pages. Right now, obviously, you can't deny what Pages is doing, and Langford's injured. So, short term, you go Pages over Langford.
Yeah, I feel like the walks aren't that big of a concern. I'm looking at his sheet overall. 2019, 26 walks to 79 strikeouts. 2021 after the COVID season, 132 strikeouts to 77 walks. So 2-1. 2022, 140 to 62. That's a bit of a stretch, but okay. The injury, finished season after being promoted one game with AAA last year, had 33 with AA. He had 34 strikeouts to 25 walks. Like,
He's
I
an
think he'll
aggressive
figure.
hitter, yeah.
Yeah, and even this year, 13 strikeouts to 8 walks.
I'll say this: it's
I
a profile I normally don't invest in. I guess that's a better way of putting it. This is a
yeah,
player I typically do not believe in, and a player I typically do not put my chips all in on.
it's interesting. The only season that concerns me is 2022 in AA. That's the season where he had 140 strikeouts and 62 walks and batted 236. Every other season, he had a nice average, always showcasing the power. 2021, 31 home
Oh, the
runs.
power is
That's nice.
undeniable.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Pages. I'm not necessarily shopping him because really what can you get for
No,
this player right now? In Dynasty, I actually might be shopping him. To your point, there are a lot of other players that I would rather have in my outfield. I think Pages is probably a really nice number 5.
mm,
I just don't know that playing time will always be there. He's a Dodger. That concerns
right.
me,
And
you
what
know.
happens when
And
Jason, another guy who got promoted due to injury, Jason Hayward's been injured, so they don't have the regular right fielder. So, yeah, how long does he stay?
yeah. All right, Richie, we are at 42 minutes, so
Yeah,
we're gonna really make some deviations here.
yeah, we're gonna have to
We're
change
gonna talk
some things
about
up.
what our favorites are doing, and we're just gonna talk about a few here. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and highlight 3. I'm gonna highlight 3,
Oh, I can
and
only choose
or actually
three.
we can just put some garbage behind them here. Um, and we'll kind of get into it. So first on the list is going to be Lazaro Montes, who is coming off a grand slam today. Now at 5 home runs, Montez really having a nice week. I think he's starting to really provide that potential junior Caminero breakout that we had talked about, and really getting us excited. So I have my 3, Richie. You have
I've got
your
two.
3.
I've got two. I'm
Looks
trying to figure out.
like there
Yeah,
you
I'll just
go,
pick
there you go.
whatever.
Oh, you picked some duds. You
Yeah,
just really
that's.
wanted to talk about the
I want
duds,
to talk
didn't
about
you?
the shitheads.
Give me what's going on with Montez. I mean, we both I think are on the
Yeah, he's
same
breaking
page
out.
here.
He's breaking out.
Yeah.
It was something that we both believed in. We both knew. It's good to see that it's finally happening. I don't know where he falls on the home run leaderboards, but he's got to be up there now. I think he's got quite a few in his last.
So do we want to play the game today? Do we have time to get that in at the end here?
Yeah, I mean, I can fly through my duds here. I just wanted to
Oh,
touch
he's at
on.
6 now. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, so 99 at bats, 6 home runs, 36 RBIs. I mean, this Modesto Nuts team is nuts. I mean,
I see what you did there.
Emerson, Pete,
Well, Emerson's injured too, so he's not even playing.
Fermello. This team is just every time I see like a Twitter highlight of Montez, they're always winning by like 14 points. It's like watching the Tides. It's just the single A affiliate of them. Anyways, Montez having an awesome, awesome season, as you mentioned, Richie. I think the biggest thing for me, though, 24 games, 99 plate appearances, 17 strikeouts. Let's just give him 100 at bats. We'll round up. That would be a 17% strikeout rate, 16 walks. I mean, I'm blown away by those numbers. I did not think that was possible this early. What do you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this guy. We've said it before. Like this is this year's Junior Caminero,
Yeah.
and if we haven't stressed that enough, I don't know what else we can say about Lazaro Montez. At this point, there's really not much more I can say that we haven't already said. We're kind of
Well,
just
but
patting ourselves on the back at this point.
I'm not even trying to do that at this point. I did not think we would see the best case scenario for the strikeouts and the walks.
I
I
did.
thought there was absolutely a chance that we would be talking about him now 100 at bats into the season with 47 strikeouts. I
No.
thought that may be on the table, and that was the concern I think we both had. There was very little of me that was like, oh, definitely after a month he'll have a 17% strikeout rate and a 16% walk rate. Like that's ridiculous.
So do you
And we're now
100%
starting to
believe
see.
now?
I don't love the swing right now. He's pulling off at the end a little bit. He's doing that like I'm ready to run to first base after he hits a ball 480. I don't really know what that's about. But there's going to be some development there. And I mean, yeah, I mean, he's on the common hero path that you talked about. So,
Well, since I believe more than you, I think you have to trade him to me in our home
mm,
league.
yeah, I will make that move for Christian
Wyatt Langford.
Scott,
What?
Wyatt Langford, Junior Caminero.
Okay, let's move
Okay,
on.
give me
Okay.
your first dud on
All
this
right. The
list.
first one I'm going with is Chase Petty. And, everybody talks, I mean, regardless of what podcast you're looking at, everybody's talking about who's hot, who's on fire. I think this is time for a gut check for me. And it's time to talk about the players that I was high on that aren't doing shit. And the first one is Chase Petty, 21 innings. He's got 5 games started. He's got a 7.29 ERA, 20 strikeouts to 11 walks, and a 1.81 whip. Don't love to see that. I'm curious if his increased velocity is messing with his control and where he's locating the ball. I'm just purely speculating because I don't have velocity readings for AA. I believe Baseball Savant only allows you to get that kind of data for AAA, or it's either low A or high A. Either way, it's not in AA. So I'm purely speculating that Chase Petty is having control issues with his increased velocity and he needs to work on figuring that out. And that was one of the reasons why he dialed it back. And the reason why I was so high on Chase Petty was because of that increased velocity, his fastball touching 99, 100. So I'm looking for him to get his walks down. I don't so much care about his ERA at this point, or at least something to tell me that his velocity is up and that's why he's struggling. If his velocity is down, that means one of two things. He's either injured or something else is going on. But I just wanted to call that out there. But I'm not selling Chase Petty yet, but I am watching him very closely and I'm keeping an eye out for all of his starts moving forward. Anything you else want to say on that?
You know, I'm gonna start calling this my Matt Latos theory. Richie, do you remember Matt
Yeah, I
Latos?
do.
Okay. Do you remember maybe it's like the key element about Matt Latos that I might bring up here?
I don't remember that
Okay.
specifically, but
He's got a lot of tattoos. And more importantly, he's got tattoos all over his arms. What does Ricky Tiedemann have on his arm?
Tommy John?
Tattoos.
Oh, I could have guessed that.
What does Chase Petty have on his arm? Tattoos. I believe,
There's a
I
tattoo.
theorize that if you have tattoos and a lot of tattoos on your throwing arm, you will be like Matt Latos. That's obviously ridiculous,
But
but it is
yeah, it's
something that
interesting. But
I have been following. That is
I feel
ridiculous,
like
and why
my
I
theory would be more in line than your theory.
nope, definitely the tattoos.
Got it.
Um, but no, but in all seriousness, Chase Petty he's been an up and down prospect for us for a number of years, right? Velocity's been there. Coming out of the draft, it was exciting. Coming over from Minnesota was excited, and then look at last year's numbers was very exciting, but the velocity has been up and down, kind of as you mentioned. So I think we need to continue to monitor him. And you said it with me with Hurst and Waldrip earlier in the year. We got to give these kids a little bit of a
Yeah,
leash,
see,
which
and Waldrop's turning around.
and then I listened to you, even though I may not have said that. And do I have him scribbled around here? I do. So we'll talk about Hurston Waldrop next. So started the year not very good. Looking at the game log, April 7th, he is currently in Double A for the Braves affiliate. Waldrop went two and two thirds, 7 runs, 11 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. Not good. Responded on April 13th with 4 1/3, had 3 overall runs, had a home run given up, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. So after 2 games, you and I were concerned. I was very concerned. You were saying pump the brakes. And then we have the 2 responsive outings. April 20th, 6 innings, 8 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. April 26th, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. So the walks kind of spark again. And then on May 2nd, we have 5 2/3, 1 run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. So I would say Waldrip is, responded well. The only thing that I find interesting, Richie, is 24 2/3 innings. Waldrip has 22 strikeouts. That is not the profile we were expecting coming into 2024.
No, no, it was not. But like with any pitcher in the beginning of the season, you got to be a little patient. These minor leaguers, I don't believe they have any type of spring training. So they're going through what MLB players just went through a spring training where it doesn't really matter. Look at, that's not a good example because he got shelled today, but Logan Webb, terrible, like arguably the worst pitcher in spring training. And he's been all of a top 15, top 20 starting pitcher as soon as the season started. So I'm t- I'm taking these first few starts for these pitchers. Like I told you with Hurston Waldrop, you just got to give them time. They're working their kinks out. They're working on, what did they do to their body in the off season? They added some weight. Maybe they got some increased velocity. Maybe they worked on a new pitch. They're ironing all these kinks out. And now that it's May, now is when I'm starting to, okay, now I'm going to count. I'm going to pay attention to what you're actually doing. Um, so I guess I was giving a pass to these guys ahead of time. So yeah, I think the strikeouts will come with Hurston Waldrop. And I think in a month from now, 2 months from now, we're talking about, hey, he's got 40 more strikeouts than he does innings pitched. And this isn't even a conversation.
Well, speaking on players that we are giving a pass to, but maybe the organization is not. Brock
Yeah.
Porter
Are
is
you going
next
to
on your
steal? You're going
list.
to steal my notes on Porter?
Do you have notes on Porter?
I do. So, Brock Porter, horrible preseason. We've loved his strikeout upside.
Horrible.
Horrible. I loved his strikeout upside. Loved his pedigree. Thought he was one of the best pitchers coming out of, was it the 2022 draft? Yeah, but he went in the
Yeah.
fourth because he slipped. But signed for great money. This year, 3 starts, 8.1 innings pitched, 13 walks, 8 strikeouts, 6.48 ERA, and a 2.04 whip. Man, that is terrible. However, he has been recently assigned to the Arizona Complex League and he is working with mechanical issues. So something is off clearly and he's going to work on them. Now, this gives me a little bit of promise because guess who also had to go and deal with mechanical issues? Jack Leiter, his teammate for the same organization. So I have hopes that Brock Porter can get it figured out. I just feel the timeline for Brock Porter is now a little bit longer. I had hopes that maybe he might get a cup of coffee at the end of the season, maybe help them with a playoff run. Is it out of the question? No, not necessarily. But if he does, it might be in a bullpen role. But he needs to figure out his issues going forward. But it's a semi gut check for me. But also, I hope he figures it out because Brock Porter is somebody that's got a spot in my heart.
Yeah, it's early. I still love Brock Porter. I've invested heavily,
But
and
I felt the need to mention him because, whether you listen to us, you listen to somebody else, you read your fantasy news, I feel like nobody's right now talking about the players that aren't doing anything. And I felt the
yeah.
need to bring them up.
So Brock Porter and Chase Petty. Who are you less concerned about long term?
Brock Porter, just
Okay.
because it's already come out that
Yep.
it's mechanical. So, like, throw away those last 3 starts. Clearly, something's off. They adjusted it. Maybe he's tipping his pitches. Who knows? I don't know. Either way, something's wrong. So, like, they're gonna go fix it. Chase Petty, I haven't seen any news on why he's struggling, and The only thing I can to speculate is the increased velocity that we were seeing in the offseason from the Twitter highlights. So less concerned about
Yeah,
Brock
and
Porter.
its impact.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, you have one more name. I have one more name. Why
it's your
don't you
turn.
go
No, it's
ahead?
your turn.
Oh,
Unless you want me to go.
okay.
You want me to go?
Blake Tidwell is our next name on the list.
Ew, that's not what you have. And oh, you took it out. Okay. I was gonna
Oh
say you had a
yes, it's
different name
we
in
we
the
had a
rundown.
different
It's not safe for
name.
work, so we won't say it.
Yes, yes, that's right. Although I will have to put an explicit tag on this podcast because of the swearing I had earlier, unfortunately. But Blake Tidwell
Poor potty mouth.
dominating, dominating, double A. And it's interesting because coming into the year, Richie, we liked, I think, Scott number one,
Hmm.
right? Tidwell, I think, was number two with the third name eludes me. Can you help me figure out who the third pitching
For
prospect
the
in the
Mets,
Mets in the organization that we may or may not have been high on?
um, I'm not sure. I mean, there's three in the Red Sox, but there's Mike Vassell. We
Vassal is
weren't.
the name I was looking for.
I
Good
mean,
job.
we weren't really. I mean, I wasn't really high on Vassell, but maybe you
I
were.
like Vassal. Vassal's three for me though.
Okay.
And oh my God, he is not having a good season. So Tidwell coming in nicely at number two and dominating. So far on the year, a 1.23 ERA, 5 games, 3 started. That's weird, but I think that goes right into what you talked about spring training. You know, they're probably just trying to get him comfortable to start. 29 and a third innings, 36 strikeouts for Tidwell, a .85 whip. I am very excited, Richie. Tidwell, formerly a second round pick, 52nd overall at College of Tennessee, 6'4", big body. He now is the best pitching prospect in the Mets organization. What do you think? 2025 debut?
Yeah, I think 2025 is more realistic. I think he gets bumped up to AAA eventually. He's mostly known for his fastball slider, and he's got two additional pitches, curveball and changeup, that aren't nearly as great. And one of the things we were looking for is to see him improve on his command. 10 walks and 29 and a third innings. I mean, it's okay. He's got a .85 whip, so I'd love to see that. What's funny is anytime Christian Scott would pitch on the same day Blade Tidwell would pitch, so I always found it exciting. Whenever I found out what Christian Scott did, I'd immediately go and see what Blade Tidwell would go and do. So I don't think
Oh, because
they're
they had him paired up AAA and AA.
yeah. So it was
Yeah.
pretty nice. And I'm almost wondering if now. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how long Christian Scott stays because the Mets have some rotation pieces that should be coming off the injury list soon with Senga and Tyler McGill or Taylor McGill. Always get them mixed up. So it'll be interesting to see, does Christian Scott stay? And if he does Tidwell get bumped up to AAA with the void of Scott at AAA? So love me some Tidwell. Hope he continues on his current trajectory for sure.
Yeah, don't tell your wife that.
Tell my wife what?
I mean, I'm putting a little Tidwell. It's
Oh, got it.
you
Okay.
can assume
I see.
what
I
else
see. I
I
see.
meant by that, right?
That's fair.
You have one left, and then we're going to finish the show with the game. So go ahead and finish your last prospect up
Yeah,
for us.
last prospect I have, and it's not a pitcher that's doing horribly, but it is a third baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies. And that is Aiden Miller. He was drafted last year, 27th overall, 19. Currently at low A, batting 313 with 2 homers, 7 walks to 14 strikeouts. He's got 8 stolen bases, which is the thing I mostly want to point out is
Yeah.
I didn't think he was a speed threat, and to see him have 8 stolen bases is quite a nice sign for me. I get it's the lower level, so like pitching and pickoffs aren't as great, and how many of those stolen bases are balls in the dirt or pass balls, yada yada. I could go on and on. Either way, love to see it. He was mostly known for being a power hitter, but dealt with some injuries. So last year he popped up on my radar because he started his pro debut batting 303 in rookie and low A, and to see him come out and start batting 313 again in his first 16 games, it's just very encouraging for me. And I think Aiden Miller might be the long term solution as early as 2026, 2027. I think maybe replace Alec Boehm. He's definitely got the defensive and the arm to take over for Alec Boehm. So I do like Aiden Miller and his current start to the season.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I want to mention about Miller is just the interesting birth date for him. He's 19 right now. He will be turning 20 in June. And, for a lot of people, their first professional year, that's a knock. I'm sure it was probably a knock on him during draft time where his birthday fell. But we do have to remember that Bobby Witt also was an older birthday in his draft class, and look where he is now. So I don't think that connotation necessarily follows these guys anymore. He is showing that he can develop and play well at single A. I'm expecting a high A promotion for him, probably midseason and finishing in high A with probably a return to high A next year or an aggressive placement at double A. But I think the fast track is on now, at least in regards to what we can project, kind of as you were saying, because he's doing well at the lower levels. He's not one of these draft picks that came in and are struggling and are going to take a year or two to develop the lower levels. I think he is going to have that good track. So definitely a player we like. The eight stolen bases of Richie, you're right. That's jumping off the page for me. And I'm excited to see what does that continue or not.
Yes. Well, we will see.
All right, Richard. What do you got? What's this game we're playing?
I'm trying to get it to load and my shit's being slow.
Slow
So
shit.
we are going to go through the minors and we are going to see if how many of the top five Matt can guess for the home run leaders. Triple
Now,
A.
are we doing only
We're gonna go
those
by.
who are still at the level?
Um, no, we're gonna do current leaderboards just because that's how I have it set up right now.
Okay,
So
I'm good with that.
okay. Come
Triple A.
on. I have AAA first, so there's five
Okay.
names.
Heston Kjerstad, Kobe
Whoa,
Mayo.
whoa, 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 hold on. We go one at a time. And I'll tell you if you're right or wrong, and I'll tell you where they land. Okay.
Okay, Joey Loperfido, number one.
No.
Heston Kjerstad,
Wait,
number three.
Loperfido's not on here. Hold on.
What did you do? Did you break it? You should use
Oh,
MILB tracker because it doesn't
no.
mess you up like that.
Oh, it's because it's international PCO. Can All right. Number one is Joey Loperfido with 13.
Yeah. Boop. All right. So number two would be Heston Kjerstad.
He's actually tied for fifth
Thir-
with
oh,
10.
okay. Kobe Mayo, number two.
Kobe Mayo is tied for number two with 11.
Okay, so we've got a tie at 11. I'm guessing. So I've got three of the top
You've
five.
got three of the
The
top
other
five.
two, I'm guessing, are probably nobodies that are over the age of 27.
Um, well, one of them and he's 26, and the other one is 26. He plays for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I don't think you'll be able to get him.
Tell me the other two.
Kyle Stowers of the
Yep.
Baltimore
Yep.
Orioles and Ryan
Yep. There it
Ward
is.
of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Never
So
would have got it.
I don't know much about Ryan Ward. So we can either move on to Double A or we can dig a little bit more
No.
into Ryan Ward. It's up to you.
Move
No,
on.
move
Eh.
on. Matt doesn't want to play this game anymore. All right. You did pretty well, I'm not gonna lie, but AAA was
I
easy.
missed Stowers. Stowers hurt because I knew that one. I knew that
Okay.
one.
We are now at Double A. Let me make sure I got all Double A affiliates. Okay. Double A, go. You should be able to get
I'm gonna go
two of these.
Junior Caminero.
Try again.
Okay. Double A.
How
This
many
one's
does
gonna be more
Caminero
difficult.
have?
Caminero should have 6. Caminero should have 6. Double A is a challenge though, because all of my favorite players are either at A or Triple A. And you said I should be able to get 2 of them, 2 of the 5.
Hold on. I'm going to turn off the qualified because Caminero is not populating. So I'm going to just put 0
Damn
plate
it.
appearances because we're filtering by, which is crazy that Caminero doesn't qualify because he doesn't have enough plate appearances, but he has 6 homers, right? Okay.
This is the thing that I'm struggling with. I know that Double A, it doesn't have the same games played as Triple A, which would lead to less home runs. And on top of that, the prospects that I like. So I'm gonna go. Are you ready yet?
Yep, I'm ready.
I'm gonna go Matt Shaw.
No, Matt Shaw is not in the top 5.
Really? Okay. Um.
We
I'm trying to
talked
think
about one
here.
of these players. I'll give you a hint. The number 1 player is for the New York Yankees, and he is a catcher.
Oh yeah, Ramirez.
Yes,
That
Augustin
sucks
Ramirez is number one.
Ramirez is a challenging one. Um, okay, he's got 11 home runs this year or 12.
9.
Okay, so nine's kind of the benchmark. Caminero, does he qualify or no?
No, he's not in the top 5, and I don't know where he is.
Okay. Um,
I'm wondering if it doesn't count the ones he had from today. When was this updated?
how many did he have today?
I think he had 2 today, right?
I don't know. I was sleeping all day. Um, Roman Anthony wouldn't qualify on this, so he's not gonna fall. Oh, Emmanuel Rodriguez.
No. He is tied for 14th with like everybody else with 4.
Um, okay. I mean,
You're not going to get these. You
I'm
should have
not gonna
gotten
get these.
this one. Davison De Los Santos, the
Oh,
Rule 5
for
pick that's now
for
back on
the
the Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
He's tied with
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
The other
He's
ones,
got 9. Is that right?
he's got 9 as well. These other
Yeah. Yeah.
ones
That
you weren't going
okay.
to get. Ben Rice, New York Yankees catcher.
Catcher.
Dylan Shroom, Kansas City Royals, double A. He's 26 though, so does he really count? And then Matthew Lugo, pitcher or not pitcher, double A for the Boston Red Sox. He's 23 years old.
The
He
next
has
Otani.
6. Yes. Okay. Um, let's move to high A now. God, my laptop's going slow. Okay.
Okay. This is just gonna continue to drag, but I'm going to try. Gabriel Gonzalez.
No.
No. Okay.
You should be able to get 2 or 3 of them. We're at high
that's a
A. We're at high A.
that's a high expectation for me.
I'll give you a hint for one of them. 2 of
Okay.
them. 2 of them are
Xavier
Cincinnati.
Isaac.
2 of them are Cincinnati Reds.
Hector Rodriguez.
No.
Hmm.
The other one that you sent me this weekend.
Carlos Jorge.
No. Hector Rodriguez is tied for 11th with 4 and everybody else.
I sent you another one this weekend.
You did. You did.
I don't remember. Who was it?
So at well, I guess technically there's like 7 guys tied for 4th, but I just went in order. Jay Allen of the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, Jay Allen. 5.
Yeah, well, he's
He's at
tied for
4.
5. There's a bunch of them tied for 4, but he comes in at the 5th slot on Fangraphs.
Okay. Who has the most home runs in high or low A? Is it high?
We're at
A.
high. Cam Collier with 7.
Oh, that's an easy one. I
Yeah,
should
you
have
should
got
have got
that
that
one.
I wouldn't have gotten that either. Number 2, Creed Willems of the Baltimore
Yeah.
Orioles. He has 6. Also tied with second place with 6 homers is Cam Fisher of the Houston Astros. He's 23
Astros.
though, so like
Yeah.
23 at high A, don't really count him.
Uh,
And then Jared Cerna, he's also on the list of people who are tied with 5. He's New York Yankees, high A. All right, last one. We will go to low A, and then we can wrap up the show.
I'm gonna go Montez because 6 is ridiculous for low A, and honestly, it's
Okay,
how are we feeling
Montez
about that?
Montez is tied for 2nd with 5.
Okay. Are these players that I would recognize?
You're not going to get any of these guys.
All right, list them off.
Okay. Number 1 is Ariel Almonte of the Cincinnati Reds. He's 20 years old.
How old?
20 years old. So, a little old, but he's only batting 197. So, he's got 15 walks to 34 strikeouts. Number 2 is Lazaro Montes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's really good at hitting home runs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lefty, righty,
You're gonna
6'4",
see
170. This is a big kid.
outside of Lazaro Montes, these guys have home runs and nothing else really sticks out to them. But Andy Garriola, Chicago Cubs, he's 24 years old, so we're gonna write him off for age. And then the list goes on and on with everybody that's tied with 4. But the one that sticks out to me is Angel Genao, Genao, of the Cleveland Guardians. He's 20 years old. He's got 4 homers. He has 9 walks to 13 strikeouts, and he's batting .319 with 4 stolen bases. Never heard of this guy. I'm going to look him up as soon as we are done with this podcast because that is something to note. He's off to a great start. And the Cleveland Guardians could use some players in the minor league system that are doing something.
I'm watching Almonte right now.
How's he
I mean,
look? He's batting 197.
he
It's got to be a uppercut swing if I had to guess.
yeah, it looks like he's actively trying to play softball, but it's when he makes contact, it's very impressive.
But does he get hit in the nose with a softball is the question.
That's the real question. That's the real question. Yeah, no, I mean it's nice to see that Montez is at least showing form, right? Like there is at least one really nice prospect at the lower levels
That's
giving
like
us
blowing. Oh, Ralphie.
something to be
Good old Ralphie's
something
on
to be
this list. Forgot about him. He's
Ralphie is number 5.
well, Ralphie's tied with like everybody else with 4 homers. It's pretty much
Yeah.
one, and then Montez tied with one other person for 2, and then just like there's like 11 people tied for third with 4, and Ralphie's one of them. So you could have got Ralphie.
Interesting. Okay.
It's still
Well, that's all I
early.
have for us
Still
today.
early.
What do you have? Anything else?
My nose hurts.
Your nose does hurt. Yes, I'm sure it does.
We're going to a Brewer game this week, so that'll be fun.
We are. You have to buy tickets for us.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after this.
But all right. Well, we're back, everyone. We'll see you next week. I'll probably be recording in Wisconsin. But yeah, have a fantastic week. We'll be out with this episode tomorrow, and we'll see you next week. Bye.